I found out my wife was cheating when our 5-year-old asked why Uncle Ben sleeps over when I'm on business trips. I don't even know how to start this. I guess I'll just dump it all out here because I feel like I'm going insane trying to hold it in. I, 34M, have been married to my wife, 32F, for almost 9 years. We have a 5-year-old daughter together. Let's call her Emma. Up until a few weeks ago, I thought we were doing okay. Maybe not perfect, but I thought we were solid. We had our routines, our little fights, our jokes, our Sunday morning pancakes, bedtime stories, the works. I travel a lot for work, usually once or twice a month, 3 to 4 days at a time. I hate it, to be honest, but the pay is good, and it's allowed us to have a house in a decent neighborhood and a good preschool for Emma. I've always believed that I was doing the right thing, working hard now so we could have security later. And I trusted my wife. I really did. I didn't think I had any reason not to, until Emma said something that cracked my entire world open like an eggshell. It was a Tuesday night. I had just gotten home from a 4-day trip to Dallas, exhausted but happy to be back. Emma ran to hug me, and we were sitting on the couch while she showed me a picture she'd drawn, me, her, and her mom holding hands under a rainbow. Then she tilted her head and said, totally innocently, "Daddy, is Uncle Ben coming to sleep over again when you leave next time?" I laughed at first, thought she was making up stories or confusing names. I said, "Who's Uncle Ben, sweetie?" And she answered, "Mommy's friend. He comes and watches movies with her, and sometimes he sleeps in your bed when you're not here." But I'm not allowed to tell you. I just froze. I didn't know what to say. I looked over at my wife, who had walked in just as Emma finished her sentence. Her face went white, like dead white. She stammered something about kids having wild imaginations, but it was already too late. You can't unhear something like that, especially not when it comes out so naturally, so casually. That night was a blur. I barely remember what I said to her. I know I didn't yell. I was too numb. She swore up and down it was just a friend who came by to help while I was gone, that Emma must have misunderstood. But her voice was shaking. Her hands wouldn't stop fidgeting. I didn't sleep. The next morning I called in sick and drove Emma to preschool. I kissed her goodbye, told her I loved her, and sat in my car for an hour trying to figure out whether my whole life was a lie. Then I did something I never thought I would. I opened her laptop. I didn't want to snoop. I swear, I wasn't that kind of husband. We trusted each other, or at least I thought we did. I never checked her messages, never asked who she was texting, never needed to. I believed in giving space, in not being that insecure guy who polices his wife's phone like a warden. But now all I could see was Emma's little face looking up at me, asking if Uncle Ben would be coming over again. And my wife's face, pale, cornered, guilty. That look is seared into my brain. So I opened her laptop while she was out shopping. Same password as always, Emma's birthday. And I found exactly what I feared. Not right away. She was smarter than to leave stuff lying around in her inbox. But I checked her Google account, and from there, her synced text messages. It took some digging. But there he was. Ben. Not Uncle anything. Just Ben. And what I found, it made my stomach twist so hard I nearly puked right there at the kitchen table. The messages started out harmless enough from months ago. Stuff like, "You make me laugh more than anyone. I swear. Wish you were here last night. I needed your arms. He's out of town again next week." And then they got more direct, more explicit. "Your side of the bed still smells like you. You wore that dress today, didn't you? God, I can't stop thinking about it. We need more time together. I don't like sneaking." And then this. "Emma almost told him about you again. I had to cover fast. She's too smart for her own good." That one hit me like a freight train. Again, how many times had this happened? How long had this been going on? And most important, who the hell is this guy? I started digging. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, classic amateur sleuthing. I found him in under 10 minutes. He works at a local gym, apparently met my wife at one of those boot camp fitness classes she started taking last year. Of course, the sudden obsession with working out, the new clothes, the girls' nights I wasn't invited to. I felt so goddamn stupid. He's younger than me, taller, more athletic, the kind of guy you see in beer commercials throwing a football shirtless. I hated him immediately. Not just because of what he did, but because he knew. He knew she was married. He knew she had a kid. And he still snuck into my house and slept in my bed while I was gone. That bed. Our bed. The one where Emma comes to snuggle between us some mornings. The one where we made her. I'm shaking even writing this. I didn't confront her right away. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But instead, I copied everything. Screenshots, logs, backups. I sent it all to a private email I made that day. I started documenting, making a paper trail, because I knew that whatever came next, I had to be smart. I looked at Emma that night, asleep in her room with her stuffed bear tucked under her chin. She was 5, just 5, and she already knew to hide something from her dad. She thought this guy was Uncle Ben. She probably thought it was normal. That broke me more than anything. Not just the betrayal, but the fact that my daughter was part of the lie. The next few days were a blur. Not because I was doing too much, but because I was doing everything mechanically like a robot. Wake up, make coffee, drop Emma off, smile like I wasn't shattering inside, pretend I didn't want to scream every time I looked at my wife. She kept acting normal, talking like nothing had changed, touching me in passing, asking about work, planning the weekend like we were still a team. I realized how much of her life was held together by routines, hollow routines. Meanwhile, I was breaking apart silently. Every night, I stared at the ceiling, thinking, do I confront her now? Do I wait? Do I get a lawyer first? I never thought about divorce before. Not once. Not even during rough patches. I was raised in a fix-it, not break-it kind of family. But this wasn't a rough patch. This was betrayal with premeditation. She didn't just cheat. She let our daughter lie for her. That feels unforgivable. I started therapy. Private, online, under a fake name. Just someone to talk to. Because my friends? They're all tied to her somehow. Mutual circles. Parent groups. Couples friends. I didn't know who to trust. My therapist said something that stuck with me. You're trying to protect your daughter from the explosion while sitting on the bomb. Yeah, that hit hard. Because Emma, she was watching. Kids always watch. She saw my fake smiles. Heard the way I answered her mom with cold politeness. I thought I was hiding it, but she knew something was wrong. And then, 3 days after I found the messages, she said something else that gutted me. We were having dinner. Mac and cheese, broccoli, apple slices, the usual. She was being her bubbly self, talking about a classmate who brought a turtle for show and tell. Then she looked up and said, "Daddy, are you mad at Mommy?" I nearly dropped my fork. I asked why she thought that. And she said, "Because you don't smile at her eyes anymore. And you used to. You used to laugh with your mouth open. Now you keep it closed. She's 5. She shouldn't notice that. She shouldn't know that." That night I broke. Not in front of Emma. I held it in, kissed her goodnight, tucked her in, closed the door. Then I went to the bathroom, turned on the fan, and just sobbed into a towel. I don't even remember how long I stayed in there. It felt like hours. My chest hurt. My fists were sore from clenching. I couldn't stop picturing my wife with him, in our bed, on our couch, laughing the way she used to laugh with me. What do you do when the person who's supposed to be your safe place becomes the reason you can't sleep at night? How do you come back from that? The next morning, I booked a consultation with a lawyer. I didn't tell her I was going to see a lawyer. I just told her I had a work meeting. She didn't ask many questions, just kissed me on the cheek like always, and I let her. It felt like letting a stranger touch me. The law office was in a brick building downtown, tucked between a bakery and some hipster coffee shop. I sat in my car for 10 minutes before walking in. My heart was hammering like I was doing something wrong, even though I was the one who'd been betrayed. I met with a woman named Sarah. Clean-cut, direct, no nonsense. She looked at me like she'd seen 100 guys like me before, which I guess she had. She asked me to explain everything, and I laid it all out. The traveling, the text, the daughter's comment, the emotional tailspin. I could barely look her in the eyes when I mentioned Emma. That's what always gets me. Not the affair itself, but that it dragged my little girl into it. Sarah nodded, took notes, then asked a question that made everything feel real. "Are you seeking full custody?" My stomach dropped. I hadn't let myself think that far ahead. I said, "I don't want to take Emma away from her mom, but I don't want her around a man like him." Sarah didn't flinch. "We can work with that." The next few days were prep. I gathered financials, screenshots, documentation. I started keeping a written log of anything suspicious. I even bought a little voice recorder just in case. I felt like a spy in my own house. But the hardest part wasn't the lawyer or the evidence or the planning. It was pretending. Pretending I didn't know. Pretending I still wanted her. Pretending, most of all, for Emma. Every fake "I love you" I whispered at bedtime made me feel like I was scraping pieces of myself off the floor just to survive one more night. I wanted to scream. I wanted to burn the whole house down. But I had to stay calm. For Emma. Then, on a Friday night, exactly 1 week after Emma first said his name, I finally cracked. We were sitting on the couch. She was scrolling her phone. Emma was asleep upstairs. I was sipping a beer, staring at the muted TV, not even seeing it. And then she said, like she was ordering takeout, "Are you going to Dallas again next week?" My throat tightened. I looked at her. Really looked. The face I used to love. The woman I proposed on a pier at sunset. The woman I watched give birth to our daughter, screaming and sobbing and stronger than I'd ever seen her. The woman I built my life around. And all I could see was a mask. A liar. A coward. A stranger in my home. I set my drink down and said quietly, "How long has Ben been *king you in our bed?" She dropped her phone. Literally. It hit the hardwood floor with a soft thud. She stared at me like I'd punched her. Like I had done something wrong. "What are you talking about?" I cut her off. Don't insult me by pretending." Emma told me. I saw the texts. I know everything. She opened her mouth again, and I just raised my hand. I'm not here to argue. I'm not here to scream. I'm here to tell you that I know. And that this. I gestured around us, the couch, the room, the quiet suburban life, is over. She sat there, blinking, mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. Then the tears came. Of course they did. But I didn't comfort her. For once, I let her cry alone. She cried like her world had ended. But mine already had. I didn't yell. I didn't throw things. I just sat there, completely hollow, while she sobbed and mumbled the same lines I'd heard in 100 online horror stories from betrayed spouses. It didn't mean anything. It just happened. I didn't want to hurt you. I was lonely. That last one stung. Lonely. I wanted to scream. I was busting my ass across the country to pay for this house, for your car, for Emma's school. And you were lonely? So you let a guy into my bed? But I didn't scream. I just said, "So you kept him while our daughter was downstairs watching cartoons?" She winced. Didn't deny it. Then came a next line. The one I'd been dreading. It only happened a few times. I laughed. Out loud. Cold, sharp, bitter. That kind of laugh that tastes like blood in your mouth. Don't lie. You told him Emma almost outed you again. How many few times is that? She froze. Then she changed tactics. It's over. It is. I ended it. I swear. I just didn't know how to tell you. I said nothing. Because the truth? I didn't care if it was over. She let it happen. She hid it. She used our daughter to keep it secret. That was the part one couldn't come back from. The next 30 minutes were a haze of her sobbing, begging, trying to explain, defend, minimize. I didn't listen to most of it. My ears were ringing. I just kept seeing Emma's face when she asked why I didn't smile at Mommy's eyes anymore. When the tears ran dry, she whispered, "What do we do now?" And I said, "Now, we protect Emma, and then we separate." She gasped, like that wasn't the most obvious outcome in the world. Like I hadn't just laid out exactly what she destroyed. I slept on the couch that night. She slept in the guest room. The silence between us was a living thing. The next morning, I handed her the lawyer's card and said, "You should get your own." That weekend was brutal. We pretended for Emma, barely. I could tell she knew something was wrong. Kids always do. My wife, no, my ex, tried to act like nothing had changed. She overcompensated. Made pancakes, took Emma to the park, played board games, laughed too loud. It was disgusting to watch. I just kept quiet. I didn't want to yell in front of Emma. I didn't want her to be scared. She'd seen enough confusion already. But every minute I spent in that house felt like choking. So on Sunday night, after Emma went to sleep, I told her I'd be moving in with my brother for a while. She asked if it was temporary. I said, "That depends on how honest you are from here on out." And that's when she finally cracked for real. When I told her I was leaving, really leaving, something shifted in her. She stopped crying, stopped playing victim. And for a second, just a second, I saw the real her. Not the wife. Not the mother, just the woman behind a mask. And that woman looked scared. Not sad, not guilty, scared. She sat at the kitchen table while I stood there with my overnight bag. "If I tell you everything," she said slowly, "do you promise not to take Emma away from me?" That's when I knew. There was more. A lot more. I didn't say anything. Just sat down across from her, arms crossed, waiting. She looked like she was trying to find the least damaging version of the truth, and I hated her a little more for that. Finally, after what felt like forever, she started talking. "It started last year. I didn't mean for it to. I swear. He was just around. She met him at that boot camp fitness class like I guessed. Apparently they got to talking after class, and he flirted, and she felt seen again. That's how she put it, seen again. Like I hadn't been coming home from airports at 2 a.m. just to crawl in a bed beside her before Emma woke up. At first, it was just texting. He made me feel wanted. You were always tired, always distracted, always gone. That part stung, but I bit my tongue. She wasn't wrong. I was tired. Because of her life. She admitted they started sleeping together 4 months later. She said it was only occasionally. Said she never meant for it to become a relationship. But then came the worst part. It wasn't just when you were traveling. I stared at her. What? She looked down at the table. Sometimes, when you were upstairs, or out running errands, or even just in the garage, Emma was always watching TV, or playing in her room. I thought it was safe. That was it. That was the last thread of sympathy I had. She brought him into my house when I was home. She snuck him in my life like a damn parasite. All those times I was in the garage fixing something, or mowing the lawn, or walking the dog. He was in my house, with my wife, while our daughter sat 20 feet away. I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. She flinched. Good. I didn't yell. I didn't punch a wall. I just said, "You don't deserve to live here anymore." And then I walked upstairs to Emma's room, kissed her on the forehead, whispered, "Daddy's got you," and left. I'm at my brother's place now. He gave me the spare room. No questions asked. I told him everything the next morning. He cried. He loved her like a sister. I filed for legal separation. Custody negotiations are coming. I'm asking for primary. I won't let my daughter grow up thinking this kind of betrayal is normal. The thing is, I don't even know who I am right now. I built a life with someone who was lying to me under my own roof. I trusted someone who used my child to cover her tracks. I'm numb, angry, empty, but I'm not broken. Not yet. The hardest part wasn't leaving the house. It was seeing Emma's face when I told her Daddy wasn't staying the night. She clung to my shirt like her arms could glue me back together. Why, Daddy? Did I do something wrong? I nearly lost it right there. My throat closed. My eyes burned. But I knelt down and held her face in my hands, looked her straight in the eyes, and said, "No, baby, this isn't your fault. Mommy and Daddy have some grown-up things to work out, but we both love you so much." She asked if I was mad at Mommy, and I lied. "No, sweetie, I'm just sad." Because how do you explain betrayal to a 5-year-old who still thinks the worst thing in the world is a broken crayon? My brother, Matt, has been incredible. He's got 2 boys of his own, so Emma has cousins to play with. He cleared out his office so I could have a room. He stocked the fridge with the cereal she likes. Didn't ask questions when I showed up with a suitcase and hollow eyes. I told him everything that night. He didn't say much, just looked at me for a long time and said, "You didn't deserve that." And that simple sentence shattered me all over again. The next week was brutal. I had to explain to Emma why I wasn't there in the mornings, why I didn't tuck her in every night. I started seeing her every day after school. For now, we're doing 50-50 until custody is decided. But even that feels fragile. My ex, I still hesitate calling her that, but I need to, keeps acting like this is some sort of misunderstanding we can work through. She emails me daily. Long, flowery paragraphs about how she made a terrible mistake and wants to rebuild and doesn't want Emma to grow up in a broken home. But here's what she doesn't get. The home was already broken. She broke it. And not like dropping glass. More like pouring gasoline on the kitchen floor and lighting a match. I finally met with Sarah, my lawyer, again this week. We're filing for primary custody. I showed her everything. The text, the timeline, the confession about Ben being in the house with Emma nearby. Sarah's confident. She says judges don't look kindly on that kind of reckless behavior. My wife doesn't know yet. She thinks this is just space. She thinks I'll come home. She doesn't realize I'm building a new life from the ground up, one where I don't have to wonder if someone else is drinking from my coffee mug when I'm out of town. And here's the worst part one haven't admitted until now. I still miss her. Not her exactly, but who I thought she was, who we used to be, the life we had, the future we planned. Grief is weird like that. You're mourning someone who's still alive. Emma asked me last night if we could all live together again soon. I hugged her tight and whispered something I didn't even believe when I said it. We'll figure it out, baby. Because I don't know how to tell her. Some things can't be fixed. I filed for primary custody last Thursday. I didn't tell her in person. I let my lawyer handle it. Cold, maybe, but I couldn't bring myself to look her in the eye anymore. Not after everything. She found out 2 days later. Called me 7 times in a row, then switched to texts. How could you? You're punishing me through Emma. She needs her mother. Please don't do this. I didn't respond. Then the guilt bombs started dropping. I made one mistake, and now you want to take my daughter from me? Do you want her to grow up hating both of us? It's funny. When she was cheating, she never seemed this desperate. But now, facing consequences? Suddenly, I'm the monster. We started seeing a family therapist for Emma. Court recommended neutral ground. Just some early sessions to help her understand what's going on as gently as possible. The therapist is a kind woman named Lisa, mid-50s with a calming voice and warm hands. She talked to Emma alone for the first session. When we came back in, Lisa sat us down and said, very quietly, Emma is confused. She says sometimes there were visitors when Daddy was gone, and that Mommy told her it was a secret game. I saw my ex's face tighten. She looked like she was going to speak, but Lisa raised a hand. Please don't interrupt. Lisa looked at both of us and said, you two need to understand something. Children don't remember everything with detail, but they remember how things felt. Emma knows something was wrong. She doesn't have words for it, but the confusion is real. The secret keeping is real. I wanted to cry, or scream, or leave. Instead, I just nodded and said, that's why I want her with me. My ex stared at the floor. Didn't say a word the rest of the session. That night, I got another message from her. But this time, it wasn't an apology. It was a warning. If you go through with full custody, I'll fight you with everything I have. I won't let you poison her against me. And that's when I knew. The sweet remorse, the tears, the begging, it was an act. Not all of it, maybe, but enough. Enough to prove she was still in self-preservation mode. This wasn't about Emma. This was about control. She hadn't changed. She was just adjusting her mask. Later that night, Emma asked me if I still loved Mommy. I froze. I wanted to say, not anymore. I wanted to say, she broke Daddy's heart. I wanted to say 1,000 cruel truths. But I knelt down and said, I love that she's your mommy, and I always will, because that was the only honest thing I could give her. Our first court appearance was last Monday, preliminary custody hearing. Just a short session to lay groundwork and present temporary arrangements. Still, it felt like a battlefield. She came in all put together, soft colors, no makeup, hair in a tight bun, like she was trying to look fragile. She even brought her mother for emotional backup. The same mother who once told me I was the best thing that ever happened to her daughter. I sat on the other side with my lawyer and a thick binder of printed evidence. Every message, every calendar entry, every detail we could confirm. Ben didn't show. Not that I expected him to. He's not party to the custody case. But his shadow hung in the room like smoke. The judge was an older woman with sharp eyes. Very no-nonsense. Each side made their pitch. Her lawyer argued that she was the primary caregiver, that I was frequently absent, and that removing Emma from her full-time care would be destabilizing. Sarah countered with exactly what we had. The affair. The fact that Emma was exposed to an unrelated adult male without supervision. The deception and emotional confusion placed on a child. Then came the question I'd been bracing for. Does the mother acknowledge that this man, Ben, spent nights in the home with the child present? Her lawyer tried to dance around it, but the judge pressed again, direct, and then she said it. Your Honor, my client is prepared to state that Ben was never alone with the child, and that no inappropriate behavior occurred in front of her. She maintains that Emma was unaware of his role in the mother's life. I looked at Sarah. She glanced down at our documents. Then I said quietly, just loud enough, "That's not true." After court, I was still burning. So I did something I hadn't planned on. Something I wasn't sure I should do. I called one of the other moms from Emma's preschool. I know her pretty well. We volunteered together on a holiday event once, and she'd always struck me as observant. Honest. We met at a coffee shop. I didn't even have to say much. Just asked if she'd ever seen anything off. She hesitated, then said, "You know, Emma once told my daughter that her mommy's friend sleeps over sometimes, but that it's a secret." She thought it was funny. I didn't think much of it back then. Then she said the words that made my blood run cold. She said the man gave her candy and told her not to tell. That night, I couldn't sleep. My stomach was a knot of rage and dread. I don't know if Ben ever touched her. I don't think so. But now it wasn't just about adultery. It was about recklessness. About putting my little girl in a situation where God knows what could have happened. So I made a decision. I'm filing for emergency full custody. And this time, we're naming Ben directly. I filed the emergency motion the next morning. Sarah didn't hesitate. Once I told her what the preschool mom had said, that Ben gave Emma candy and told her to keep secrets, her entire tone changed. She went from cautious and professional to cold and surgical. That's enough for emergency action. We filed the paperwork within hours. It's surreal how fast the system can move when the right phrases are triggered. Unsupervised adult male. Child instructed to keep secrets. History of deception. Even without direct evidence of abuse, it was enough to raise concern. And in custody court, concern is currency. The order came through that afternoon. Temporary sole custody, effective immediately. She wasn't even allowed unsupervised contact until a hearing could be scheduled. And I swear, the moment I got that call, I sat down in my car and cried. Not out of victory, out of sheer, aching grief. Because this wasn't how I ever wanted to win. She lost her mind. I'm not exaggerating. She showed up at my brother's house, screaming at the front door. Matt had to physically stand between us while I called the police. She didn't care that Emma could have heard her. Didn't care that neighbors were staring. Didn't care about anything except control slipping from her hands. The cops arrived, took statements. She didn't get arrested, but she was warned. And then, the twist. 2 days later, Sarah called and said, "You're not going to believe this. Ben just retained legal counsel. He wants to issue a sworn affidavit." My stomach dropped. Why the hell would he do that? Sarah paused. He says he wants to protect himself, that he never asked to be part of this, and that your wife told him you were separated the whole time. We got a copy of the affidavit the next day, and if I wasn't already numb, it might have broken me. Because Ben, he was a piece of sh*t, no doubt. But he wasn't a monster. He was a prop being used. According to his sworn statement, she told him we were legally separated but living together for Emma. She said I was emotionally abusive and cold. She insisted I had cheated first, and she was healing. She never told him she was still actively married, or that we were sleeping together until just a month before discovery. He admitted to sleeping over, admitted to sneaking around, admitted he should have asked more questions. But he also said he thought I knew, that I was just avoiding confrontation. And then, at the very end, I told her I didn't want to be around the kid if it meant sneaking. She said not to worry, that Emma thinks of me as just a friend of Mommy's. She said it made her feel like we were a real family. I don't even know what to feel anymore. Betrayal is like rot. It spreads quietly until everything falls apart at once. And now I'm sitting in a small room in my brother's house, with my daughter asleep down the hall, and I'm just empty. Not angry, not vengeful, just tired. So damn tired. But I'll keep fighting. For Emma. For whatever's left of my soul. The hearing was set for Friday morning. Sarah told me not to expect anything final. The court doesn't usually grant permanent custody decisions at this stage, but she was confident we'd at least extend the emergency order and maybe get supervised visitation terms in place. Still, I didn't sleep the night before. Emma kept waking up, asking for water, a different stuffed animal, one more story. She doesn't know what court is. She doesn't know that grown-ups are fighting over where she sleeps. And the worst part, she still asks for her mom. We walked into the courtroom. Same judge, same sharp eyes, same stale air. My ex sat across from me, visibly shaken. This time, no tight bun, no sympathetic cardigan. She looked like someone who hadn't slept either. Her lawyer was stiff and defensive. Ours was calm and deadly. And when Ben's affidavit was submitted into evidence, I saw something new flash across her face. Fear. Real fear. Because now her lies were public record. And not just to me, but to the court. The law. The judge skimmed it, asked clarifying questions. Then she looked up and said something I'll never forget. This court is deeply concerned by the mother's pattern of deception, not only toward her spouse, but toward the child's understanding of her environment. And then, we're extending the emergency custody order pending full psychological evaluation and parental fitness assessment. It felt like breathing after weeks underwater. When the judge left the bench, my ex finally looked at me. And in that look, not anger, not guilt, but hatred. The kind of hatred that only grows in someone who just realized you're not coming back. Not ever. Later that evening, I sat with Emma in the backyard while she played with sidewalk chalk. She drew a house with a sun and 3 stick figures, me, her, and someone I didn't recognize. I asked, "Who's that?" She smiled and said, "That's Annie Jane. She reads me books at daycare when mommy doesn't come." I asked, "Do you like her?" She nodded. She doesn't lie. 5 years old, and already knows what a lie feels like. After she went to sleep, I sat outside alone. The air smelled like cut grass and rain clouds. For the first time in weeks, I felt something crack open in my chest. Not peace, but hope. Because maybe this wasn't just about fighting a war. Maybe it was about rebuilding after the bombs fell. And maybe, just maybe, Emma and I could still have a future without shadows. 2 days after the hearing, we met the court-appointed psychologist. Her name was Dr. Martinez. She had warm eyes and a clipboard that seemed to record everything. Not just words, but silences. She met with Emma first, then me, then my ex separately. The full evaluation would take a couple weeks, but she said we'd get an interim report sooner. Emma was quiet during their session, but afterwards, Dr. Martinez gave me a soft smile and said, "She's smart, sensitive. She picks up on more than she can explain. Yeah, tell me something I don't know." Meanwhile, my ex started pushing for visitation again. Supervised, of course, per court order. At first, I didn't know how to feel. I didn't want to keep Emma from her mother. Not forever. But I also didn't trust her. Not her instincts. Not her judgment. Not her motives. The judge approved 1 visit. 1 hour at a child services facility with a neutral third-party observer. I drove Emma there myself. She was quiet in the back seat, holding her stuffed raccoon. I could tell she knew it wasn't just another playtime. When we got there, my ex was already sitting inside the brightly colored room full of puzzles and beanbags. She smiled too wide. Overcompensated. Emma hesitated at the door, and then whispered, "Is the bad man going to be here?" It hit me like a sledgehammer. "No, baby," I said. "He'll never be near you again." She looked up at me, serious, suspicious, and said, "You promise this time?" This time. Like she'd already learned, not every adult promise means something. I sat in the hallway while they met. I wasn't allowed in. 1 hour. No more. When Emma came out, she didn't say much. Just handed me her raccoon and asked to go home. No mention of what they talked about. No smiles. Later that night, while we were brushing teeth, she asked it. The question I've been dreading since this whole thing began. "Daddy, why did mommy lie to me?" I froze. To her, lies are still tied to cookies or broken toys. But now, they mean broken homes, missing dads, crying nights. I took a breath and said the only thing I could. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, big ones, and sometimes they don't fix them fast enough. She didn't ask more, just rinsed and spit. But I saw the wheels turning. She's building her own truths now. Dr. Martinez called me the next morning. She couldn't give full results yet, but she said something that stuck with me. "Emma's sense of safety is linked entirely to you right now. That's good, but fragile. The mother is struggling to accept accountability, and that's a barrier we're going to have to address." Translation? She's still playing the victim, still pretending this was just a lapse in judgment. Not a pattern, not a betrayal that had consequences. Dr. Martinez said something else before she hung up. Don't let anyone rush your daughter's healing just to make themselves feel better. I won't. The evaluation report came in last Friday. 23 pages. Clinical, objective, devastating. Sarah called me the minute she read it. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the tension under it, like a coiled wire ready to snap. You need to read this yourself, she said. But in short, it's a turning point. Dr. Martinez's report didn't accuse anyone of abuse. She made that clear up front, but she did use words that carried serious weight in a custody case. Inconsistent parental insight, emotional deflection, minimization of harm. Child exhibits distress when recalling moments of secrecy associated with maternal presence. And the big one. At this time, the child demonstrates primary attachment security with the father. Maternal presence is associated with anxiety and confusion. Reintroduction should be gradual and monitored. I reread that line 5 times. My ex had taken our daughter's trust and twisted it into something Emma now feared. And yet, right on cue, she tried to twist everything again. That night, I got a message from her. Not a voicemail, not a call, a video. She was sitting on our old bed, the one she shared with Ben, with Emma's stuffed raccoon in her lap. She was crying, full mascara-streaked tears, shaky hands, quivering voice. If you're watching this, it means you've read the report. And I know you probably hate me right now. I deserve it. But please don't keep her from me. I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy. I'll cut contact with everyone. Just don't erase me. She didn't say Emma's name once. Just her. And when the video ended, I sat there in silence, staring at the black screen. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't empathy. It was emptiness. Because this wasn't about Emma. It was about her losing control. Again. 2 days later, I got something unexpected. A letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. Inside was a single folded page. The handwriting was neat. Mail. Unfamiliar. It read, "You don't know me, but I dated her 6 years ago. She told me her ex was abusive, that he stalked her. She made me believe she was a victim of everything. I found out later she was still sleeping with him during our entire relationship. I thought I was crazy. You're not. Don't let her rewrite your story the way she rewrote mine. No signature, no name, just that." And suddenly, the pieces fell into place. This wasn't the first time, not even close. I gave the letter to Sarah. She said if we could identify the sender, it could support a pattern of manipulation. Even without that, it deepens the case that this wasn't an isolated incident. And yet, I keep thinking about something smaller. The stuffed raccoon, Emma's comfort toy, her one constant, and the fact that my ex used it in her video like a stage prop, as if holding it made her look more motherly, more sympathetic. She still doesn't get it. This isn't about winning. It's about repairing the damage she caused. And that starts with accountability, not performances. This was supposed to be a calm week. Emma was settling into her new routine. Preschool, afternoons at the park, bedtime stories with me, and her raccoon, Mr. Ruffles. I was almost starting to believe we had a rhythm again. Not normal, but stable. Then she showed up, unannounced, uninvited, unhinged. It was Thursday. Emma and I had just returned from the grocery store. I was carrying bags into the kitchen. She was trailing behind me, humming and bouncing with her usual post-snack sugar high. And then I heard her gasp, "Mommy." I turned, slowly. There she was, my ex, standing halfway up the front walkway with this awful, pleading smile like she hadn't violated a court order just by being there. She waved. "Hi, baby. I just wanted to see you for a minute." I dropped the bags. Emma froze, unsure whether to run forward or look at me for permission. I said as calmly as I could, "Emma, go inside. Put Mr. Ruffles on the couch and wait for me." She obeyed, eyes wide. Then I walked outside and closed the door behind me. My ex immediately started crying. "Please, I had to see her. You're cutting me out of her life." I cut her off. "You were told not to come here. You know you weren't allowed. But she's my daughter too. Then act like it. Respect the F***king rules. She's 5, not a pawn in your games." She stepped forward. "I miss her. I need her." Her voice cracked, but it wasn't grief. It was desperation. Entitlement. Like Emma was oxygen and I was hoarding it. I pulled out my phone. You've got 10 seconds to get back in your car before I call the cops. She didn't move. Don't do this in front of her. You already did. And that's when I heard the front door creak. Emma, standing barefoot on the threshold, clutching Mr. Ruffles to her chest like a shield, eyes brimming with confusion. My ex turned toward her, voice dripping with that fake softness again. Baby, Mommy just wanted to see your face. Just for a second. Emma didn't smile, didn't move. Then, in the smallest voice I've ever heard her use, are you gonna lie again? My ex flinched like she'd been slapped. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. That one sentence had more weight than anything I could have said in court. She turned, slowly, got in her car, and drove away. No more words. Emma came to me and asked, Is Mommy in trouble? I picked her up, held her close, heart pounding like a war drum. She's not supposed to surprise us like that. It's not safe, remember? She nodded, then whispered, I don't like surprises anymore. That night, I made a decision. We're moving. I already talked to Sarah. As long as I inform the court, and as long as visitation remains supervised and accessible within reason, we're allowed to relocate within the state. Matt found us a small rental house 20 minutes away near a better elementary school and a playground Emma already loves. It's not about running. It's about starting over, somewhere her footsteps won't echo in the same hallways where trust went to die. We moved last weekend. Not far, just 23 miles east, but it felt like crossing a border into a different life. No more creaky hallway. No more bedroom she shared with him. No more memories carved into door frames and drawer handles. Just clean walls, fresh paint, silence, and a backyard with a swing. Emma calls it our secret house. She likes that it's just us, even though I remind her Mommy is still part of her life, just not this part for now. Our first night there, she sat on the back porch wrapped in a blanket, watching the sky darken. Can we stay here forever? She asked. I didn't say yes, because I've learned that kids don't need promises. They need presence. So I said, we'll stay here as long as it keeps you safe and smiling. She nodded, then added, totally seriously, can we get a dog? Of course we can, kid. 2 days after we settled in, I got a message. From Ben. Not another affidavit. Not a demand. Just an email. Subject, apology for what it's worth. I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. It read, I know I probably shouldn't be reaching out. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Not just for what I did, but for not questioning what she told me. I should have asked more. I should have known better. When I found out she was still living with you, still sleeping with you, I felt sick. She lied to me too, but that doesn't excuse my part. I was complicit, and I'll regret that for a long time. I hope your daughter's okay. She seemed like a good kid. I didn't mean to be part of whatever damage this caused. Take care of her. Take care of yourself. Ben. I didn't reply. What could I say? He was a grown man. He chose what he chose. But part of me didn't hate him anymore. Because the more time passes, the more I realize this was never about him. He was just a mirror, and what she chose to reflect in it was on her. Yesterday, Dr. Martinez sent the final custody evaluation. I opened it slowly. My hands were shaking. The summary was blunt. The father demonstrates consistent, emotionally regulated parenting. He provides structure, empathy, and validation to the child's experience. The child expresses a clear sense of security in his care and an observable reduction in anxiety since the change in residence. The mother demonstrates a continued pattern of emotional instability, difficulty accepting accountability, and a tendency toward impression management rather than insight-driven behavior change. Recommendation: primary custody to remain with father. Supervised visitation with mother, pending future reevaluation. I read it 3 times, not because I didn't believe it, but because for the first time in months, I felt like someone finally saw what I lived through. I sat on the porch that night while Emma slept. Just sat there, quiet, no anger, no fear, just air in my lungs, and the realization that somehow, we made it through. It's strange how quiet courtrooms feel when everything's about to change. Our final custody hearing was this morning. The same courtroom, the same judge, but this time I wasn't shaking. My palms were dry. My heart was steady, because this wasn't about punishment anymore. It was about closure, She sat across from me again, still trying to play the part. The neat clothes, the careful makeup. But this time, something was missing in her eyes. Fight? Hope? Or just control? Her lawyer made a final plea, asking for restorative shared custody, claiming she'd done therapy, regretted her actions deeply, and had grown through adversity. But the judge didn't even flinch. She glanced down at the file, Dr. Martinez's report, the affidavits, the court order violations, everything, and then said firmly, "This court finds the father to be the most consistent, emotionally stable, and appropriate parent at this time. Primary physical and legal custody will remain with him. Visitation with the mother shall be supervised only, pending review in 6 months." That was it. No drama, no raised voices, just a gavel. In the end, she didn't look at me as she left, didn't say a word. I almost expected her to turn, to throw one last grenade. A scream, a cry, a whisper, but she just walked out, quiet, and maybe that's what made it real. When I picked up Emma from school that day, she ran to me like she always does, arms wide, raccoon in hand, her hair wild from recess. She said, "Can we go to the park?" I said, "Yeah, we can go anywhere you want today." We sat on the swings. She kicked her legs higher, giggling, and I just watched her, free, light, unburdened. And then, as the sun started dipping, she slowed down and said, "Daddy, yeah, bug. Are we okay now?" I wanted to say yes. I wanted to scream it, write it in the sky, carve it into stone. But I knelt next to her instead, held her small hand, and said, "We're not perfect, but we're together, and that means we're okay." She nodded, like she understood something deeper than I'll ever fully grasp. Then she smiled, a real one, the kind I hadn't seen in months. "So yeah, we're okay now. Not because the court said so, but because she did."